Hey, what's going on, guys? Josh from TrailBuilt, and there has been a ton of hype surrounding the 2021 Bronco. We have people on YouTube doing all kinds of videos on them, giving their opinions on them, but we have yet to really try this thing out until now. Thanks to Bilstein shocks, we were able to get down near Austin, Texas to the Bronco Offroadeo and really just get an in-depth look on how well these things really worked. And that's what we're gonna go through with you guys today. Now, these proving grounds where the Ford Bronco Offroadeo were held, it's on something like a few hundred acres. It's northwest of Austin, Texas, about an hour or so. And there's trails, there's rock climbs, there's mud, there's all different kinds of purpose-built obstacles out there for channels like ours or influencers on Instagram or even people that have already purchased the Bronco that just haven't received them yet. So our day started with a shuttle ride from the hotel over to the Bronco Offroadeo proving grounds with about 15 other influencers or so, and of course the team from Bilstein. So we all gathered around and we went through basically a driver's meeting. We got to introduce ourselves, we got to meet the trail guides, and then the trail guides went through a whole list of different things that we were going to be doing for the day, what tos, what not tos, and of course some features on the Broncos. Then we went to the trails and we got to each individually drive the Broncos with the trail guides there to go through a few different obstacles, sort of get some seat time in the Broncos before we went out and picked out all of our own individual Broncos that we got to drive, which was pretty awesome. So after we learned a little bit about the features on the Broncos and got a little bit of seat time climbing some hills, going through some rocks, flexing out the suspension, learning how to turn on and off the lockers and the sway bar disconnect, and then the turn assist and all of that good stuff. And then after that, we went back to the base and there was all of these different Broncos lined up out there, and they basically just told us to go pick one out. And the one that we picked out was a two-door, had 35-inch tires, had lockers, and had the trail assist on it, but it did not have the disconnecting sway bar. And then once everybody got settled in their own Bronco, we hit the trails. From there, we drove in maybe about 10 minutes or so, slow, just kind of getting our feel for the Broncos. And first obstacle, went through it with no problems. It was a pretty decent downgrade slope, sort of a drop off, and we picked up one of the rear tires off the ground, and the Bronco, the two-door Bronco that we were in, handled it with ease. And Zach was actually behind the wheel for the first half of the day, absolutely loving it. And I know he's had his eye on one before they even hit the market, so he was pretty ecstatic to be in the driver's seat for the first half of the day. And Zach does have some off-road experience, but one of the things with the new Broncos is they really made it super user-friendly for anybody. Whether you've had off-roading experience or not, you can just jump into one of these things, shift it into drive, and go. The lockers are super easy to reach. They're right up on the dash there. You know you got to hit them when you start spinning a tire, or even right before you hit the obstacle, you just click the lockers on. Of course, they're electronic, and away you go. So super easy. All the dials are easy to read, easy to use, and all the other off-roading functions that the Bronco have on them are super simple to use. So you don't have to have a whole bunch of off-roading experience to jump in one of these things and go hit some pretty technical trails without being too nervous. You can be pretty confident that these Broncos are gonna tackle just about anything you throw at them. Now, ours did have 35-inch tires, but we were running 32 pounds of PSI in each tire. So I was really surprised that we weren't running a lower air pressure in the tires, but I think they did that because they really wanted us to experience how much capability the Broncos had, even at street pressures, which we didn't have any issues. We didn't slip a tire, we didn't get stuck anywhere, we didn't slide off the trail. I mean, these things just hooked and booked and went everywhere we pointed them. We hit some pretty steep inclines with loose gravel, loose dirt, and it was able to walk right up it with ease. We were able to climb some pretty steep embankments that were all solid rock, sort of like what we experienced out in Moab this past year. And this Bronco, I mean, the thing just, every one of them actually, even some of the people that were with us that had zero experience in an off-road vehicle or any sort of off-road situation, were able to just tackle these obstacles like they weren't even there. So it was very impressive to see just how well the Broncos work. And I was a little skeptical at first. I didn't really think the Broncos were as capable as what all the hype was saying that they were. I thought it was more of a marketing ploy, but once we got in these things and we started hitting some of these obstacles, it definitely had me sold. One of the hills that we went down was it was a super steep decline, and one of the features that the Bronco had is a trail control assist, which basically controls the gas, it controls the brakes all on its own. So the trail guides told us to keep our feet on the floors, don't touch any of the pedals. All we had to do was steer, and they were just gonna guide us down, left, right, whatever it may be. And the Bronco that we were in, being a 2-door, is a little bit more unstable than like the 4-doors with the longer wheelbase, because having a shorter wheelbase, you're a little tippy when you're going up hills or down hills. Well, back end of our Bronco dang near came up off the ground. I never hit the pedals one time, and the thing just controlled itself all the way down the hill. Super impressive. It was pretty fun, it was pretty exciting, pretty awesome that this thing just worked on its own. There's a lot of different accessories that you can get for them already, front bumpers, rear aftermarket bumpers, of course wheels and tires from Trailbuilt Off-Road, and a slew of other accessories. Ours had a light bar, a couple light pods on it, the aftermarket front bumper. It was set up pretty nice. This thing literally walked through everything. In fact, some of the harder obstacles that we got to more towards the end of the day, where it was questionable if anybody was even going to make it up one of these rock climbs. But fortunately, we had some really great trail guides. In fact, one of our trail guides, John, was in the Army and did all sorts of tactical driving training on some of their bigger Army rigs. I can't think of the names right now, but he would train guys how to drive these things off-road, through buildings. I mean, all different kinds of stuff, which is pretty awesome. You felt very confident with him in front of you, guiding you through some of these obstacles. But we did climb one of these rock formations, basically, which was sort of like a slick rock like you would see out in Moab, where we came up at it on an angle, and when we put the front driver's side tire up on the rock, of course the back side lifted up. Felt like you were getting a little bit tippy, but still pretty stable, and had the lockers on and basically just crawled right up this thing. Being in 4 low in manual first gear, you barely even had to touch the gas, and it would crawl right up basically anything you pointed it at. Even the ones that had zero off-road driving experience were able to walk right up some of these, what I would say, pretty challenging obstacles. Now, they're not going to be anything like what you would see at King of the Hammers or Backdoor or anything like that, but they were still pretty challenging for some of these rigs that were basically stock with 35-inch tires. So pretty neat to see how well these Broncos really worked out on the trails, and to find out it's not just marketing hype. Ford really did an excellent job, a really great job at putting these Broncos together and making them work like they should off-road. Now, I know there's still a lot of controversy about the independent front suspension compared to why didn't they run a solid axle, or is there going to be solid axle swap conversion kits out there? I'm sure there's going to be, but one of the things that I did like, and this may be me just being older, is the independent front suspension, because it did offer a little bit smoother ride. Of course, with the Bilstein shocks in there too, that also helped aid in having a smooth ride. So with the independent front suspension, you don't have that rocking side to side or back and forth like you do with a solid axle. I did enjoy the front independent suspension a little bit more. It was a nice smooth ride. It was still very capable with the independent front suspension. Throughout the group, I noticed a lot of other drivers, you know, they lifted tires, but with the lockers on, I mean, you're still getting all that extra traction, and it still keeps that forward momentum going. So very impressed. I'm almost even considering getting one myself. I would have really loved to take that little 2-door Bronco home with us, but we had to get over to the Tennessee Jeep Invasion to finish that all up. But all in all, the Bronco trip was super awesome, and really appreciative of Bilstein for inviting us out there, hosting it. They did an a phenomenal job at organizing it and setting this whole thing up for us. We had a lot of fun, we had a lot of great food, and also met a lot of great people. So again, thank you to Bilstein for hosting that for us. Thank you to Ford for offering that experience for us as well for the Bronco Offroadeo. And also with hanging out with Bilstein, with the reps out there, we are also going to be posting another video in the near future that explains a lot more about Bilstein, who they are, and why their shocks are so good. So make sure and stay tuned for that. Other than that, guys, if you do have any other questions on the Ford Broncos, definitely make sure and let us know in the comments below. And guys, as always, we appreciate all of you for watching and all of your support. I'm Josh from Trobuilt, and we'll see you guys out on the trails.